High-flying Arsenal met Stoke City in the 1971 FA Cup semi-final at Hillsborough. The Gunners were aiming to capture their fourth FA Cup trophy, and with the league title also well within reach, they were hoping to become only the second club in the 20th century to do the double. Their lineup was as expected, with the only change being John Samuels taking the bench spot in place of Eddie Kelly. On paper it looked to be a battle of big-name keepers, and for Arsenal the ever-reliable Bob Wilson was hoping to guide them to Wembley. The only surprise in the Stoke lineup was John Mahoney coming in at 7, with Jimmy Greenhoff taking the number 4 shirt. The Potters had never lifted the FA Cup and had battled through 7 tough matches to make it to only their second semi-final. Their star keeper was none other than England's number 1, Gordon Banks, who would have to be at his very best if Stoke were to stay on course for their first. None other than England's number 1, Gordon Banks, who would have to be at his very best if Stoke were to stay on course for their first ever piece of major silverware. Commentary from Brian Moore.
So Stoke get this semi-final away, defending the goal to our right, all in white. And a match I suppose you can quite properly call Stoke's most important of the century, when you think that they've never yet played in a final, and only in one semi-final, and that was in 1899. So vital for Arsenal, of course. It'll be interesting to see how they cope early on with Stoke, having lost to Stoke in the league 5-0, and of course beaten in Cologne in midweek. Pejic. Oh, and Charlie George, a nice little tap there for George Armstrong, and Banks, who is bound to dominate that area. Stoke skipper. Charlie George to Peter Storey. Shrugging off the challenge of Burrows. Quite big enough to look after himself is Storey, and now it's Pat Rice. Storey pleading for the ball behind him again. Now Charlie George. Radford. But cut out again by Stoke City. Mahoney. And Bernard not getting it, and the ball going through to Conroy, who hesitated for a moment, thinking that the whistle was about to go. Regaining his composure and finding Burrows. Mahoney has made a run forward, and a good-looking run it is. But McClintock covering once more for the Arsenal. And the corner going to Stoke City. The first of the game. Anxious men now in that Arsenal goal mouth. Burrows to take it. He'll look for Ritchie. Conroy in the 6-yard area. And a low one. And my goodness! By Bernard, that was only just wide. Bloor, in fact, who very nearly put Arsenal behind, is sticking out his foot there. That couldn't have been more than a foot wide of that Arsenal post. George Graham. Eric Skeels to Conroy. Oh, taken by George Graham. And he's got Radford on his left, and he's got Kennedy up with him. He had but known it, the better pass was probably out to Radford, who was unmarked down the left. And now a long ball that sends John Ritchie away. He shrugged off McClintock. And a shot there, just past the post, by Jimmy Greenhoff. Really thundering break there by Stoke City, that long ball out of defence. Ritchie shaking off McClintock, and Greenhoff just fractionally wide. Radford, a good back header. Skeels back to Banks. And now Pejic. Bad one by Pejic. Straight into touch for the throw to the Arsenal. And it'll be Storey to take it. Kennedy. It was a nice turn inside by Kennedy, but Mahoney got there before George Graham. McNabb putting it straight to Conroy. Burrows on the outside for him, and Greenhoff too. Rice coming across to cover for the Arsenal. Still Greenhoff. Oh, he made a bit of space for himself there, Greenhoff. And Bob Wilson at full stretch with Ritchie behind him. Good work by Wilson. He didn't panic. He judged that to a nicety. There really was so little to spare with Ritchie behind him and poised. And brilliant work by the number 4 in the front of the picture there, by Jimmy Greenough, who made such a good angle for himself. So a corner to Stoke. Burrows, who takes them from both sides. Low one again, Smith getting in. Conroy there as well. And Story! Oh, against it is him! Oh, an absolutely freak goal. And it puts Stoke into the lead. That might have come off any one of 5 players. And it looks as though Dennis Smith is the one who is being credited with it so far as Stoke are concerned. But what a freak goal. Now Conroy, really swinging it about a bit now, Stoke. Oh, and away goes Conroy again, to blast it, oh, into that side netting. Beautiful jinking play there by Conroy, and a good measured build-up by Stoke. And Arsenal's free kick. Taken quickly, in fact, by George Graham. Pat Rice now, floating another one. Radford to look for it, and Smith getting up skills to complete the clearance, but only as far as McNabb. Oh, now Kennedy, can Kennedy turn it? Oh, great work by Banks! Oh, and he's almost lost it! And the whistle had gone. It must have been kicked out of his hands unfairly. Tremendous reactions, though, by Gordon Banks, getting down so quickly on that one. A real daunting prospect for the Arsenal, really, when they're this goal down. A freak goal, to be sure. And now they've got to beat this man, the world's number 1. So Banks with the free kick for Stoke City. Oh, straight off Radford. Are we going to get another strange goal? George Graham to Charlie George. Turned on nicely there for Radford. A little lucky there. And now Story! Oh, hammering it though. Kennedy! Oh, just past! And Banks coming out to remonstrate with Pat Partridge. Probably more out of relief than anger. And now we have Armstrong with another corner then for the Arsenal. Radford jumping for it, getting it with his head. And Banks. Burrows. Played wide there, and a good one by Burrows, and finding Conroy. Perfectly fair challenge by Story, although the crowd don't think so. Oh, and Conroy doing stupid things there, kicking at Story well after the ball had gone. Getting a talking to from referee Pat Partridge, and perhaps a little lucky not to get more. It'll be Arsenal's free kick. And it'll be Peter Simpson with it. Radford again coming for it. Radford looking very lively this afternoon. Charlie George. Now it's Eric Skeels for Stoke City. Played coolly across his penalty area to Bloor. Mahoney. Greenough finding Burrows. Mahoney again. Played nicely inside there for Greenough, who turns it in again. McNabb. Kennedy. Graham. And Simpson away. Bloor to Pidgeon. Harry Burrows. Oh, a nice little flick on there. Simpson as cool as you like. Oh, Charlie George! This is the chance! Ritchie! And 2-0! Charlie George's back pass! And Arsenal, disaster for him! And it could well be disaster now for Arsenal. Ritchie, the simplest of goals. Well, you can legislate for almost anything, it seems, these days, but not for the human touch and the human error. And Charlie George, alas for Arsenal, has presented Stoke with their second goal. Mahoney. They're trying to 1-2 there, and coming off with Bernard. Mahoney again to Conroy. Good play by Stoke. Mahoney. Now to Burrows. What a beautiful move by Stoke. Burrows! Oh my goodness, almost there. It was Simpson who nodded that one down. But that was a brilliant build-up again by Stoke City that really had Arsenal torn to pieces. Conroy getting it across. Ritchie poised underneath it. And a free kick given. Ritchie, but falling for McClintock. Oh, McClintock, very lucky indeed there. He nearly presented Greenoff with it. Armstrong in, bravely, but to no avail. Graham. And Skeels to put it into touch. Safety first, and Stoke can afford it. 2 up. Simpson. Simpson to Armstrong. Simpson again, and the whistle has gone for half-time. A tragic first half for Arsenal, a freak goal, which I think we must credit to Dennis Smith that put them behind. And then a tragic back pass by Charlie George, which allowed Ritchie to nip in for the second one. So that's the half-time situation in this FA Cup semi-final at Hillsborough. Stoke City 2, Arsenal 0. We shall be back with you with the second half in just a couple of minutes from now. So Arsenal get us away at the start of the second half. Arsenal, who started this game 9-5 favourites to win the FA Cup, with Stoke the 7-1 outsiders, but now Arsenal with everything to do in this second half. Conroy. I think that Arsenal conceded only 2 goals in their previous 7 games, and in this tragic 45 minutes that's just gone, they've conceded another 2 that might well completely demolish all their Wembley hopes. Although Stoke themselves were 2 down to Hull City in the last round of the Cup. So if Arsenal can rekindle some of that sort of fire, it may not be lost. Here's Simpson with the free kick for the Arsenal. Radford at the far side, arm aloft. George Graham's gone in there, and Charlie George too. George Graham nodding it on, and George Graham again. Radford with a chance, and Radford with another chance over. And in fact, it's John Ritchie who's right down there, inside his 6-yard area, who blocked that first one. Hammered that one, the first one. Trying a clever little chip for the second one, which didn't quite come off. And so Stoke get the goal kick with Gordon Banks. George Graham. In fact, it's McClintock. Rice. Law finding Conroy. In for Greenoff. Beautiful skills by Greenoff, and Mahoney away! McClintock hesitated, Mahoney! And straight into Wilson. And George Graham and Peter Storey having a right word with the referee. They felt he should have been given up offside, but he was onside when that ball was played. And Arsenal very nearly hesitated to find themselves really in deeper disaster. It's one or two very good breaks that Mahoney has made, with Greenoff reading it so well. It's Skeels now. Stopped by Simpson. Arsenal by no means at the moment doing themselves justice. Law, so short. And so it's Arsenal's throw with George Armstrong. Over the head of Skeels to Kennedy. Now Radford and Graham leaping at that far side. And Story to Hamid! And a goal! You've got to give it to Story! And Arsenal back in it! Radford and Graham jumped so beautifully for it. And it finally came out for Story. There was a ricochet, but Peter Story really hammered it. One fell nicely for Story. He was determined enough, and perhaps his determination deserves some reward. George Graham. And Mahoney. In fact, says the referee, going over the top. And so Arsenal's free kick. McClintock with it. Charlie George right up there, and Bloor to get it away. Only Greenoff up. And Greenoff! Now here's a break for Stoke City. McClintock trying to get back. Greenoff over the top! Tremendous break by Greenoff. Rice. Smith to put it behind, but in fact the whistle had gone for offside against George Graham. And now 2 minutes left. Back with Banks. Rice trying desperately to get that ball before it goes out of play. McClintock to Radford. In turn to Armstrong, who will run and fight forever. But now he's got a little over a minute left. Radford to Armstrong. McNabb's gone down the left for him. Conroy is covering. McNabb getting it across, and Smith full length to put it behind for the corner. 1 minute now to go, and not many more chances for the Arsenal to make something of it. Armstrong with it, and almost the entire Arsenal side in that Stoke penalty area, including Simpson. But the whistle had gone. And it must have been a foul on Banks as that one came across. And behind that goal there, the Stoke supporters really jumping for joy, because they know that if their side can hold out for a minute or more, then they've also qualified for a trip to Wembley for the final. Banks with the kick for Stoke City. Story in on it. Radford looking for it with his head. Arsenal desperate for searching out this ball. Down goes Graham, and a free kick to the Arsenal. Lennox, Samuels, Burrows and Pedgick have heard it. Just as everybody goes forward as we go now into injury time, so every Stoke player has come back. Armstrong wanted to take it quickly. The wall won't get away 10 yards. And Armstrong saying, how can I take it quickly with the referee standing over it? Now he can take it. Armstrong going in, or rather Graham going in. Samuels with a shot. And another flick, and it's wide, and a corner. And again, Banks having it out with the referee. I've never seen Gordon Banks argue as much as he's argued this afternoon. We've now played 45 seconds of injury time. as Armstrong takes this last gasp corner for the Arsenal. Everybody up and heading off the line. Was it a penalty? It's a penalty because it was pushed off the line by Mahoney. And so Arsenal, in the very last seconds, have a penalty. Story is the man with the terrible responsibility. Story, who has scored in 4 penalties this season, now faces Gordon Banks, the #1 goalkeeper in the world, and there are Arsenal players who dare not watch. Story versus Banks, Wembley at stake, and he's done it! Story has equalised! 2-2, and you cannot get a more dramatic semi-final than this. Arsenal reprieved with almost the very last kick. Two goals to Story, 2 goals to the Arsenal, and Stoke are shattered. An Arsenal fan on the field, but McNabb is... An Arsenal fan on the field, but McNabb is shooing him off. He wants to get on with it and look for the winner now. Conroy. Suddenly it's the crowd at the other end of the ground who've erupted, and the Stoke supporters have gone silent. Kennedy. What a tremendous achievement by Story. And McClintock now, and now Mahoney with a great shot just over. Mahoney just over. The real ice-cool brain of Peter Story has pulled Arsenal out of trouble. 2 goals, 1 blinding shot, and 1 ice-cool penalty, and we've now played 3 minutes of injury time. Graham, and now Armstrong, and Kennedy off in pursuit, and Bloor is slower. Now Kennedy, can he do it? Banks has lost it. Can Armstrong turn it back? A corner, and it's all over. And so they've got to do it all again at Villa Park on Wednesday night. Tremendous climax to this really gripping cup tie, a semi-final, and a place at Wembley still in the balance. With Smith and Ritchie having scored for Stoke in the first half, and Peter Story, the 2 for Arsenal in the second half. So the final score of this semi-final is Stoke City 2, Arsenal 2.
A place in the 1973 FA Cup final was at stake as Arsenal faced second